The 1970s, the era of avocado green kitchens, shag carpets, and some of the most iconic brunch spreads of all time. Before avocado toast and bottomless mimosas took over, brunch in the 70s was a comforting, indulgent affair, filled with retro delights we'd love to see make a comeback. From warming cheese fondue to Jell-O-packed wonders, today we're counting down 15 nostalgic 70s brunches that should make a comeback. The last one for sure will surprise you. First up, Quiche Lorraine. Let's start with a brunch staple that graced countless 1970s tables.
Today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making a delicious Quiche Lorraine. So let's get started.
This rich and savory delight, packed with smoky bacon, Swiss cheese, and silky eggs, was the height of sophistication. It had that perfect balance of creamy and crisp, all baked into a flaky pie crust. Originating from France, this dish became an absolute sensation in American households, especially among those who wanted to bring a touch of European elegance to their brunch spreads. In the 70s, no cookbook was complete without a recipe for Quiche Lorraine, and it was a go-to dish for hosts looking to impress. It was served warm or room temperature, making it perfect for laid-back brunches with family or even upscale afternoon gatherings. Let's not forget the presentation, often accompanied by fresh greens, a glass of chilled white wine, and maybe even a few cherry tomatoes for garnish. While quiche is still around today, the original Quiche Lorraine deserves a proper comeback, preferably with a side of chilled orange juice in a fancy glass. Number 2, Crepes Suzette.
Iconic dessert, Crepes Suzette.
If you wanted to impress guests in the 1970s, Crepes Suzette was the way to go. This French-inspired classic featured delicate paper-thin crepes soaked in a rich orange butter sauce and flambéed tableside with Grand Marnier. The dramatic blue flames, the intoxicating citrusy aroma, this was peak brunch theater. The crepes themselves were soft and slightly crisp at the edges, acting as the perfect vehicle for the luscious sauce. The magic of the dish wasn't just in its flavor, but in the spectacle. The flambé effect wowed guests and made for an unforgettable dining experience. Served with a scoop of vanilla ice cream or a dusting of powdered sugar, Crepes Suzette wasn't just breakfast. It was a full-blown event. Sadly, this dish has fallen out of favor in modern brunch spots, but we say it's high time for its grand return. Who wouldn't want a bit of vintage spectacle with their Sunday brunch? Number 3, Eggs Benedict.
Eggs Benedict. This is super rich, so delicious, a perfect breakfast for a weekend morning.
Eggs Benedict, the ultimate indulgence of the 1970s brunch. This was the dish that separated casual diners from true brunch enthusiasts. Perfectly poached eggs resting on a toasted English muffin, topped with Canadian bacon, and smothered in velvety hollandaise sauce. It was a masterpiece. The contrast of textures made it legendary. The crisp muffin, the salty ham, the silky yolk, and the rich buttery sauce all came together in one unforgettable bite. Back then, brunch wasn't about rushing through a meal. It was a luxurious, drawn-out experience, often paired with a Bloody Mary or a crisp glass of white wine. Variations emerged during the decade, with some swapping out the ham for smoked salmon or even adding a layer of spinach for an eggs Florentine twist. But no matter the variation, Eggs Benedict reigned supreme. While it still exists today, it deserves to reclaim its status as a brunch icon rather than just an overpriced menu item. Perhaps it's time to bring back the classic served with a side of hash browns and a touch of retro flair. Number 4, Cheese and Seafood Fondue. The 70s were the golden age of fondue, and brunch was no exception. Enter cheese and seafood fondue, a true retro delicacy. Whether it was a bubbling pot of Gruyere and white wine served with chunks of crusty bread, or a decadent seafood fondue with creamy bisque flavors, this dish was the ultimate communal experience. Friends gathered around the table, skewers in hand, dipping and savoring every bite. The beauty of fondue was that it was just as much about the experience as it was about the food itself. The act of dipping, waiting, and sharing a pot brought people together in a way few other brunch dishes could. And let's not forget the array of dippables. Think juicy shrimp, crusty baguette cubes, tender scallops, and even vegetables like asparagus and mushrooms, all coated in that rich molten goodness. If brunch is all about indulgence and socializing, we say bring back the fondue pot immediately. Number 5. Coffee cake with cinnamon streusel.
I've got it for you. It's a classic coffee cake with streusel. It's a riff on my mom's recipe. You're not going to want to miss it.
What's brunch without something sweet? In the 1970s, a homemade coffee cake with a crunchy cinnamon streusel topping was a must-have. Moist, buttery, and loaded with brown sugar and cinnamon, this cake wasn't just a side dish. It was the star of the show. The beauty of a well-made coffee cake was its balance. Not too sweet, not too heavy, but just perfect for pairing with a hot cup of percolator brewed coffee. The streusel topping added a delightful crunch, while the cinnamon swirl inside gave it a comforting warmth that made every bite irresistible. Some variations even included nuts, a drizzle of icing, or a hint of nutmeg for an extra layer of nostalgia. It was the kind of dish that felt homemade, often passed down through family recipes, and filled the kitchen with a heavenly aroma. Modern brunches could use a little more of this old-school charm. Number 6. Jell-O mold salads.
You might think of a Jell-O mold as kind of an old-fashioned dish that belongs back in the 1950s or 60s. But I'm here to show you that this vintage dish belongs on your table today.
Nothing says 70s brunch like a good old-fashioned Jell-O mold salad. This dish was both a centerpiece and a conversation starter, with its bright colors, intricate shapes, and unpredictable ingredient combinations. These wobbly wonders came in every hue imaginable, often shaped in elaborate molds that ranged from rings to intricate floral patterns. They weren't just a dessert. Many versions blurred the line between sweet and savory, featuring combinations like lime Jell-O with shredded carrots, orange Jell-O with cottage cheese, or strawberry Jell-O with mini marshmallows. The texture, the colors, and the nostalgic flavors made them a staple at brunch buffets and family gatherings alike. Some were topped with dollops of whipped cream, others with creamy layers of mayonnaise or sour cream for contrast. Though Jell-O desserts are still around, the art of the molded salad has nearly vanished. Maybe it's time we embrace a little wobbly nostalgia again. And would you dare try it? Number 7. Monte Cristo sandwich. Sweet, savory, and unapologetically indulgent. The Monte Cristo sandwich was a brunch essential in the 1970s. This decadent sandwich featured layers of ham, turkey, and Swiss cheese, all sandwiched between thick slices of bread, dipped in egg batter, and fried to crispy perfection. But the magic didn't stop there. Monte Cristos were traditionally dusted with powdered sugar and served with a side of raspberry jam for dipping. The contrast of crispy, salty, cheesy goodness with the sweet fruit preserves was an explosion of flavor. Why settle for plain old French toast when you can have a Monte Cristo? Number 8. Croque Madame.
Fried Chicken asks, what is my favorite breakfast sandwich? And the answer, of course, is croque madame. Now, this mostly takes place on the stovetop, so come on over here.
If you wanted a fancy French-inspired brunch in the 1970s, the croque madame was the way to go. A step up from the croque monsieur, this sandwich combined crispy buttered toast with layers of ham and Gruyere cheese, all topped with a rich bechamel sauce. The final touch? A perfectly fried egg on top, its golden oak oozing over the crispy bread. Pair it with a side of dressed greens, and you had a brunch that felt both elegant and satisfying. Today's brunch menus might favor simpler sandwiches, but the croque madame deserves a triumphant return. Number 9. Grasshopper pie.
Cool, creamy, minty, and chocolatey. Grasshopper pie is a retro dessert that's making a comeback.
For those with a sweet tooth, grasshopper pie was the ultimate 70s brunch dessert. This no-bake pie was a dreamy combination of crème de menthe, crème de cacao, and whipped cream, all set in a crunchy chocolate cookie crust. The vibrant green color made it an eye-catching centerpiece, while the refreshing mint chocolate flavor was pure indulgence. Some variations even featured a boozy kick, making it an adult-friendly treat. While mint desserts have taken a backseat in modern brunches, grasshopper pie is one retro dish we'd love to see make a stylish comeback. Number 10. Shrimp and grits.
I'm bringing to you guys, check it out right there. Shrimp and grits.
While this dish has deep southern roots, shrimp and grits became a brunch favorite in the 1970s, as people embraced hearty, flavorful dishes that felt both indulgent and comforting. Creamy, buttery grits served as the perfect base for shrimp sautéed in a rich, savory sauce, often made with bacon, garlic, and a touch of spice. Some variations even added a splash of sherry or Worcestershire sauce for extra depth. This dish was a staple at brunch gatherings, offering a satisfying balance of textures and flavors. Though still beloved in the South, shrimp and grits deserve a full-fledged comeback on brunch menus everywhere. Number 11. Crepe Casserole.
All the delicious flavors of a ham and cheese crepe baked right into a convenient casserole.
Brunch in the 1970s wasn't just about individual dishes. It was about communal, shareable feasts. Enter the crepe casserole, a genius way to feed a crowd while still keeping things elegant. Instead of serving individual crepes, home cooks would layer them in a baking dish, alternating with decadent fillings like ham and cheese, mushrooms and cream sauce, or even sweet ricotta and fruit. The whole dish was then baked to perfection, allowing the flavors to meld together beautifully. It was a true showstopper, perfect for special occasions and family gatherings. We say it's time to bring back this stylish, stress-free brunch classic. Number 12. Dutch Baby Pancake.
It's actually so simple that you could easily make it a weekly thing. Today I'm going to show you a real showstopper of a recipe called Dutch Baby.
If you wanted to impress your brunch guests in the 1970s without spending hours flipping pancakes, the Dutch Baby was the answer. This oversized oven-baked pancake puffed up dramatically in the oven, creating a crisp golden crust with a soft custardy center. Served with a generous dusting of powdered sugar and a squeeze of fresh lemon juice, it was a simple yet stunning dish. Some versions added berries, cinnamon, or even a drizzle of maple syrup for extra flair. The Dutch Baby was both theatrical and delicious, a retro brunch classic we'd love to see make a triumphant return. Number 13. Tuna melt on an English muffin.
Today we're making English muffin tuna melts.
Brunch in the 70s wasn't all about elegance. Sometimes it was about ultimate comfort food. The tuna melt was a go-to dish for those who wanted something hearty, yet easy to whip up. Served on a toasted English muffin, the creamy tuna salad was piled high and topped with slices of melty Swiss or cheddar cheese before being broiled to golden perfection. Often paired with a wedge of iceberg lettuce or a side of tomato soup, this dish was a nostalgic classic that hit the spot every time. Though tuna melts still exist, the English muffin version deserves a comeback in the brunch world. Number 14. Ambrosia Salad.
I had a request to make an ambrosia salad. Today I'm going to show you how to make an ambrosia salad.
Enter Ambrosia Salad, a delightfully retro dish packed with mandarin oranges, pineapple chunks, mini marshmallows, shredded coconut, and sometimes maraschino cherries, all mixed into a creamy base of sour cream or whipped topping. Brunch in the 70s wasn't complete without at least one dish that blurred the line between dessert and salad. Light, sweet, and visually striking, Ambrosia Salad was the perfect complement to the rich and savory dishes on the brunch table. While it may seem like a relic of the past, we think this whimsical dish deserves a second chance in the modern brunch scene. Number 15. Ham and Bananas Hollandaise.
Hello everybody. Today, we're going to make something that's pretty weird. Ham and Bananas Hollandaise.
If there's one dish that perfectly encapsulates the experimental spirit of 1970s cuisine, it's Ham and Bananas Hollandaise. This unexpected combination may raise eyebrows today, but back in the 70s, it was a legitimate brunch offering, straight out of the pages of vintage cookbooks. The dish started with whole ripe bananas, wrapped in thinly sliced ham, carefully arranged in a casserole dish, and then baked until the flavors melded together. But the real kicker? A generous ladle of rich, buttery hollandaise sauce poured over the top before serving. The result was a wild mix of sweet, salty, and tangy flavors, with the creamy hollandaise acting as a decadent bridge between the ham's savoriness and the banana's natural sweetness. The dish was often served alongside toast points or a crisp green salad, adding a textural contrast to its otherwise silky composition. While it may sound bizarre by modern standards, Ham and Bananas Hollandaise reflects the fearless culinary creativity of the time, when home cooks weren't afraid to push boundaries and try something entirely unexpected. Love it or hate it, this dish is a true testament to the era's unique approach to brunch. And maybe, just maybe, it's time for a retro revival. And there you have it, 15 forgotten brunches from the 1970s that deserve a comeback. Whether it was the flair of Crepes Suzette, the communal fun of fondue, or the comforting warmth of coffee cake, the 70s knew how to brunch in style. Some may seem unusual today, looking at you, Ham and Bananas Hollandaise, but that's what made the decade so unique. Which of these would you bring back? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more delicious nostalgia.